So I'm trying to square up the posts for all the posts for the house, and I bought this beam cutter to do it, thinking that that would make a nice square cut on the end, but it's not. I don't even know if it's any better than using a chainsaw freehand, to be honest. Because it's so long, it cuts on an angle. I've adjusted this plate multiple times. Doesn't seem to work very well. I even took this square and I'm butting this up against the square, and I'm even screwing this square down so it doesn't move at all, and it still won't cut a nice flush cut at the end. I still have to shave it off with this thing, just like I did for my sauna, which kind of sucks. I think this was like 150 bucks or something, and it's not really proving any better than a chainsaw freehand. But I'm continuing to use it to see if I can get the hang of it or do something different. I don't know. So that's what I'm doing now. Screwing this square on, cutting this, looking at it, seeing that it's wrong, and then trying to feather it out to make it as flat as possible. I don't have any other good way to do this. I'm also spraying this with a bar chain oil before I get started because it doesn't have an oiler. Okay. So here's the cut. So you can see flush on the top, and on the bottom there's almost an eighth difference. Now this way wasn't too bad. You can see how far that is off. That's over an eighth inch. So yeah, not too impressed with this thing. And it doesn't matter if I adjust this or not. I mean, I've adjusted it and it moves or something, or this just is too flimsy, and while you're cutting, it wanders inside that wood. So this thing has jumped off twice now. This is the second time using it. The PRAZI beam cutter. And I can tell you just from experience, because I just spent the last half an hour putting this chain back on, that this thing is a piece of junk. So you have to unbolt this nut, and this doesn't even slide hardly at all, if at all, to be honest with you. You can't adjust this bar like you would think to put this chain back on like a chainsaw. You have to take off the entire apparatus. That means this screw and these two screws. Take this thing off so you can screw around with putting the bar and the chain back on. And I can tell you from experience again that when you take this bar and put it right up against the sprocket, that this chain should fit right on the bar then. And then you should have a way to adjust it away like a chainsaw to tighten it back down to tighten the chain. Well, there is no way to do that. When this bar is touching against the sprocket that the chain follows to turn, it still does not have enough room to get the bar or the chain onto the bar, which means you actually have to bend the bar over the top of the sprocket, and then I should say bend the chain to get it over the top of the sprocket, and then you have to wedge something to get the bar back flush against the sprocket. I know that probably doesn't make sense, but believe me when I tell you, it is a pain in the butt. It took me a half an hour to get it, and once I did put it on, I made one, and you saw 3/4 cuts, and it still did not, and it popped right back off. So what happened is that the chain is now loose. The chain is stretched, and now it's going to continue to pop back off because there's no way to tighten it. The other thing that this thing does not have is an oiler. There's no way to oil it, so it gums up. So you have to spray on or put on bar oil every cut. And you can imagine when you cut with a chainsaw that is automatically always getting oil to it. So when you're cutting an 8-inch beam, which is why you probably bought this thing, it starts to gum up halfway through the cut. And not only that, if that wasn't worse, if that wasn't bad enough, I should say, it doesn't make a flat, straight cut. So, and I have experience doing this because I cut with a chainsaw all of these 8x8 posts and found out, oh, well, you can't make a good square cut. So I thought I would buy this beam cutter and make a good square cut. Well, after cutting all of these beams and those, I can tell you that it doesn't make a square cut. None of these cuts have been square. I've had to feather them all with the bar again, just like I would a chainsaw, to try to flatten the cut. I need a flat cut so I can put it on this concrete to build my house. This thing doesn't do it. You might as well use a chainsaw. And at least a chainsaw works in all the other ways that this thing should, with an oiler, tighten the chain, all that stuff. So yeah, don't buy it. It's garbage. So here's another cut. That's what I got with it. The top is flush. The bottom is just over an 1/8 inch. And this side I had to feather. You can see how the different color. That's because I had to feather this side because it was so bad. So if we flush up this side, there, that top part of your screen is flush, and you can see this is back. Again, another good 1/8 inch. So that's been the case on every one of these. So I can eye up a regular chainsaw and get it an eighth inch off. I didn't need to buy another $150 piece of equipment to make poor cuts.